the manufacturers have bought into a premise that is faulty.
Yep.
They have bought into the premise that I can get my products digitized without understanding what that means.
Exactly.
They think, okay, now we're up on the web. People are going to buy from us. And, I don't know about you, but, going into a Unilog site is like going into Granger.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. Do you know an e-commerce platform that can handle all your content and data needs for you? Do you know an e-commerce platform that is really targeted at B2B companies and has pre-built integrations with several industrial B2B ERP systems? Do you know an e-commerce platform that has a similar go-to-market strategy as Optimizely? If you guessed Unilog, then you are right. In today's episode, we invited a panel of industry experts for a live discussion on LinkedIn to conduct an independent review of Unilog's capabilities. We covered its strengths, such as its unique services for content creation that are extremely friendlier for the buying groups. Finally, we discussed its pros and cons and its similarity with other B2B e-commerce platforms such as AppServer or Optimizely. With that, let's get to the conversation. Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our e-commerce series for which we meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We review one vendor or the solution related to e-commerce. For today, we are going to be reviewing a solution called Unilog. And it's a very unique solution, the way it has uni, it's in its name, I guess. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my intro. If you don't know me, Sam Gupta at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP, e-commerce, and digital transformation consulting firm. On that note, I am going to move to Robert for his intro.
Hi, Robert Brown from Robert Brown E-Commerce Consultancy. I help small to medium-sized businesses move into the e-commerce space.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Robert. And if you're in the audience and joining for the first time, make sure you guys post your questions and comments. We typically try to cover them during the show. If we run out of time, we will make sure you receive your answer. So on that note, Robert, I am going to offer my commentary overall, the positioning, a little bit of evolution, origin of this particular solution and where I see them fit in the value chain overall. Obviously, when we look at the e-commerce marketplace, there are like million solutions, and sometimes it just blows my mind how fragmented overall this market is. And all of these solutions, for some reason, they sometimes have very, very, very large logos. So in the case of Unilog is a very interesting solution as well. Number one, this is probably the first one that we have reviewed, and you can remind me, I don't recall if we have come across any other solutions that were built in India. As far as e-commerce goes, we have reviewed an ERP solution in the other series that was from India, but e-commerce product, I don't know how many are there. So go ahead, Raman.
No, I very few. This is the first one we have reviewed.
Yeah, and they have a very interesting background as well. So they were a consulting firm that they figured out, okay, that we wanted to build a product. I think the founder's son joined the company as well. He worked for a consulting firm, and these consulting firms obviously do very large engagements overall from the e-commerce perspective. But when you look at the product expertise, not sure how many Indian companies can really pull off the e-commerce product. By the way, ACL Commerce we did review, and they have done wonderful job after acquiring it from IBM. So obviously the product marketplace is sort of picking up in India as well, which is just wonderful. We have seen solutions from France, Germany. Where else did we review from? Obviously North America. There's no question about that. I don't know. Okay, sorry, Brazil. VTechs we have reviewed. They are from Brazil. What else am I missing? Go ahead.
No, so the locations that we've talked about is we've mostly talked about the U.S., Germany, France, Brazil. That's primarily it. We haven't really hit anywhere else.
Yeah, I guess, I think if you look at the big ones, and big ones are not necessarily from the US, that is shocking, because Shopify is really from Canada. And
Right.
Shopify is from Canada. BigCommerce, they started in Australia. That's my recollection. Then they moved to the US. But the other ones, I don't know. I mean, the commerce tools, I guess, all of the new ones, headless ones, are probably we have a big penetration overall from Germany. I think Germany is probably the heaviest hitter. In my experience, I think Europe is where the major segmentation is from the platform perspective. So, okay, so let's look at the go-to-market strategy of this company, how they are trying to penetrate the market, where they are fit. So in my mind, when I look at their business model is going to be very similar to app server or optimizely. Okay, and Robert, I don't know whether you remember overall the way app server sort of evolved. I think they got one executive from SAP. That's my recollection. That's how, and that's why they sort of rebranded that company. But overall, the way app server grew, they were very core B2B solution. They were one of the most focused on B2B solution. If you look at the in the suite or out of the box functionality of e-commerce solutions, app server has the most pre-baked functionality for e-commerce, and they are also going to have the most pre-baked integration with the industrial ERP systems. And there are very specific ERP systems that are really in the industrial B2B space, and those are going to be your Epicor Profit 21, Epicor Eclipse, Infor SXE, what else? Acumatica, now they are trying to penetrate that market. So you are going to see all of these integrations with app server, and that's exactly what Unilog is trying to do. They might not have as many pre-baked integration when we look at the reviews. Sometimes they are going to claim that they have integration, but they might not be as pre-baked as you are going to find probably in the app server ecosystem. One thing that Unilog has done differently than I don't think anybody else has done, and that's probably their secret sauce of success. What they are trying to do is not only they are trying to help from the platform perspective, but they are also helping the industrial B2B companies in building the data. And some of these B2B companies could have millions and millions of SKUs. And I really don't know how to build content for millions. If you are going to start your channel, it's going to be so expensive, and I don't know how much revenue you can generate. So that's where their secret sauce is. What they have been able to figure out, it's very unique in general, and that's probably the reason why they have attention of the buying groups, which is a very unique concept in the industrial B2B space. So I'm gonna pause there, Robert. I don't know if you're going to have any sort of commentary there, and then I'll build up on top of whatever your comments are going to be.
Yeah, so I think their go-to-market strategy is they're hand-holding these suppliers, B2B suppliers with large SKU count, converting that into digital format because they were used to having paper.
Yep.
And making it rich, modern data as opposed to incomplete, and that is timely and costly. Looking at some of the customers that they have, I think that is probably how they're selling it hard. Because when you look at what you just do a quick search, like who is Unilog's customer?
Yeah,
they've got it wrong. Now I know that sites like Gartner are pay to play, so when you type in a keyword, they're gonna put up a search results page, then whoever's going to bid on that. So the search results that you get are like Shopify and BigCommerce. Shopify and BigCommerce are not doing the same thing. They are not converting core data. That's the differentiator.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and I don't want to call out Gartner there. Obviously, they are running a large company, and sometimes, when they are looking at these competitors, they are looking at the deal flow, in terms of what customers are really evaluating. So there might be cases where customers may have evaluated, let's say, Shopify, BigCommerce, along with Unilog. But the way I'm a little bit confused overall in terms of positioning of Unilog. I don't know if they are really the enterprise play, to be honest, but they have a very unique play. Okay, so they have really large logo in the buying group, and the way buying groups are structured, they are very different overall from the business operations perspective. So typically, they are going to have a fixed set of SKUs that each of their members are trying to sell. So they are sort of trying to streamline the processes from there. So their overall SKU count is going to be very large. The way your marketplaces work, for example, if you look at any of the marketplaces, they also sort of create this crowdsourcing sort of concept of SKUs. And what these buying groups are trying to do is they are going to have discount for their members. They are going to be doing group purchasing. So one of the unique things, again, this is a very interesting go-to-market strategy. So what these guys have done is most of the SKUs that the member distributors, and if you look at their logos, Robert, for example, AD is their customer. There is another one. I believe Oracle is their customer as well. So if you look at the Oracle and AD, they are like one of the largest ecosystems. Okay, if you can penetrate in that, you don't need any more customers. That's how big these ecosystems are. And a majority of them, what they are going to have, they are going to have their own trade shows. The way they work, the way their business models are, it's very similar. Every single member is trying to be a copycat of the other member. That's how their businesses work. And that's where Unilog is really successful. Now, here is my problem with this business, especially when we look at the e-commerce play. So what these guys have done, Unilog, when you look at their strategy, they have all of this collective SKU database that they are keeping in their database. Okay. So now, anytime you are going to have, let's say, you are a distributor, you are selling a subset of the entire SKU bucket that your buying group may have. So you might be selling 40,000 SKUs, 10,000 SKUs, whatever. So now Unilog already has the catalog for those 1 million SKUs that the whole buying group is going to. So the only thing they need to do is they need to, get the spreadsheet. Okay, give me your SKU number, and you are going to have some sort of description. I already have the descriptions. Okay, so they are simply going to split that. So from your calculation, Robert, if I remember correctly, in one of the sessions that you had mentioned, if you are building just one page for one product, it takes roughly 40 hours of effort in building the content and doing the pages, right? That's what you had mentioned. Now, let's do a little math here. So if you're looking at 1 million SKUs, 40 hours, how many hours are we talking about? And how many years of effort and how many people, Robert?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, granted, so 40 hours of effort from the second you bring on a new product. So there's the research in the product to understand exactly who the buyers are, to understand what the keywords are that are going to allow it to be returned in the search results page, right?
Yeah.
It's going to have to be the imagery. So you have to take the imagery, the videos, you have to format it to the page, you have to test it to make sure that it shows up in the various screen sizes, right? So there's the data collection, there's the imagery collection, and then there's the actually merchandising it on the page and testing it before you go live. And that takes a lot of work. Writing the descriptions, because so there's two ways to write the descriptions. There's one, you literally just copy the manufacturer's description. And if you do that, you are not going to help yourself at all in terms of search results and SEO, because there's going to be 40 others out there that have the exact same description. So you're going to be lost on like page 3 of results. If you change the description into the voice of your company, then that takes time.
Exactly.
So, and so what I find is with large organizations like, sellers that sell millions of products.
Yeah.
They don't do any of that personalization. They just grab it and load it. Now, I have not yet seen any AI tools that you can tweak and say, go through my catalog, change the voice to X, and rewrite it.
Right. So there are AI tools that I have seen in the commerce space where companies have utilized and they have been reasonably, I would say, overall from the traffic perspective. But obviously, Google is becoming very smart as well in detecting these. And the recent update that they are going to do, obviously, is going to detect these things. If you're going to have machine generated content, Google is not going to like that. Now, let's touch on your comment related to utilizing the manufacturer description. Obviously, based on the money that these guys are charging Unilog, they are not writing the content for each of you. Okay, nope. Obviously they are taking shortcuts. Okay, so what they have done, again, since the SKUs are going to be standardized across the, so again they have created the database for that. So it's not going to be manufacturer's description, it's going to be Unilog's description of those products. But let's say if AD is trying to recommend that every single of their member distributors are going to be using analog. So what Unilog is going to do, so you have distributor number 1 who is using Unilog, distributor number 2 Unilog. Their product descriptions are going to appear exactly the same. So you are not going to rank. So what's the point of e-commerce? So that's my problem with the business model. Even though they are able to get the large accounts, but they are defeating the whole purpose of e-commerce in my mind. But Robert, I don't know if you agree with me on that.
No, I agree with you completely. So the manufacturers have bought into a premise that is faulty.
Yep.
They have bought into the premise that I can get my products digitized without understanding what that means.
Exactly.
They think, okay, now we're up on the web. People are going to buy from us. And, I don't know about you, but, going into a Unilog site is like going into Granger.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
It is.
If I've got to order, God forbid, if I'm a small custom manufacturer and I need to go in and order 150 parts for a custom piece that I need to have, in 2 weeks for Citibank, it's going to take me quite a while to order all those custom pieces because I have to find them, make sure that they have them in stock. And if they don't have them in stock, I need to go find somebody else that does have them in stock so I can get them in so my production doesn't slow down. It's awful.
Yeah, but to be fair, I guess with Unilog as well, if you look at the sites of most of the distributors, we have looked at the sites built by App Server as well. I would not say that they were particularly attractive. This is what you get. I mean, you have to look like the distributor, I guess. If you're going to look like Shopify, I don't know who's going to take you seriously, I guess.
See, and the study I don't have, and I don't have anybody that has actually talked about it. Many of these distributors got their start with brick and mortar.
Yeah.
So they developed a reputation based around like Graybar, right? So Graybar Electric, they have had local facilities around New Jersey for a very long time. I have visited many of them when I was doing, work for my homes. And, you pick up these products and so you know who they are. So if you need something, I'll just go to Graybar, right? Well, how many customers that don't know them from that brick and mortar experience that just, find them digitally? I don't know what that funnel looks like for them because I don't think they have marketing teams out there doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting commentary. So if you don't have any other comments, let's do some slides and then we'll come back to the commentary again. So here, as we had pointed out, so Unilog Content Solutions is a global technology company specializing in e-commerce and product data management. So that's a unique layer there as well. I think their core has always been that deep product data management expertise. And one of the things the other thing that they have done differently as part of their platform is very much like ERP. And in the B2B space, in my opinion, your data structure and the data model has to be very ERP-like. Even if you are trying to integrate it, otherwise you are probably going to have challenges. And that's why I like Unilog's data model a lot, the way they have done. Even though your site may not look as pretty, but you are not going to have as many challenges from the integration perspective. And if you are doing back and forth integration, especially when you are going to have 1 million SKUs, your ERP needs to be integrated with e-commerce. Otherwise, you are probably going to have a lot of challenges. So their flagship product is CIMM2, a software platform designed to facilitate commerce and communication between businesses. As I mentioned, they are from India. I think this is the only e-commerce platform that is from India. And they, in 2016, I mean, they won a lot of awards. 50 fastest growing tech companies by the Silicon Review. So obviously they have done something right there. And obviously all of the e-commerce influencers, Robert, as you know, I think, Brian Beck is involved with this one. Gartner is, they have reviewed these guys as well, as you pointed out. So yeah, so everybody is on top of these guys for sure. So they are definitely part of the mainstream e-commerce platform. Um, in 2001, Unilog's employee. Okay, so there was some problems with the .com bust. I think that is very similar story as your not Demandware, Intershop, right? I think Intershop, we had the same problem. They had a little dip, during .com. So I don't have anything here. This is the affiliated distributor is the buying group that I was trying to mention that they acquired. That is one, and I believe they have Orgel as well. And again, those two are one of the largest buying groups that anybody can have. They have really strong community. So that's a big win. And here they are saying Unilog began its partnership with the independent hardlines distributor Orgel to make their e-commerce platform. And that was happening somewhere in 2016, if I remember, or 2017. So none of the recent headless vendors were there at that time. So I don't know how the market is going to change. But I still believe in the pre-baked integration. So I still feel Unilog and Server, they both are going to have significant edge overall in the B2B market because of their pre-baked integration, in my mind. Some more, Robert, comment?
Nope.
No? Okay. So here we have the cost to deploy, and obviously this is the alarming comment that you were trying to mention, Robert. So I don't know if you want to cover this. Do you want to take over here?
Sure. $250,000 to $450,000 implementation fee for this solution is astronomically crazy. It's, aside from the monthly subscription fee of $4,000 to $8,000 based on transaction volume and number of SKUs and number of users, it's like it is the most convoluted pricing structure that we typically see in businesses. It should be really straightforward. So unfortunately, there's this entire camp in B2B that hasn't embraced make it simple for the customer to figure out, to self-identify. And instead, they force you to go down this sales conversation of, can I afford you? Can I not? I think, when you look at $250,000 to $450,000 from implementation, I mean, that's more expensive than some of the middle market ERPs.
Yeah, but I mean, in my experience, Robert, okay, so if you are going to have customers like Orgel and AD, and the way I like to compare them is, so I don't know how well you understand the concept of buying groups, to be honest, okay? So this is very similar to Toyota and Honda business model. So in this particular case, what they are trying to do is, let's say you go to Toyota and you tell them that you have an offering for your dealer. Now, imagine how many dealers you are going to have in your ecosystem. So you are not only providing it for Toyota, you are also providing it for their dealer network. So this is exactly what they are trying to do. So if they are charging, let's say, 250,000 to 80, that's peanuts based on the size of the company they are. But if they are charging that amount for their distributors, that's probably high. So I think there is a little distinction there in terms of what they might be doing. We don't have enough details to be able to find out who they are charging. Again, if you're going after these big boys, that's nothing.
Yeah. It's we have a really hard time drawing a clear definition for some of our listeners as to where they fit in this landscape.
Yeah.
Dollar makes it really simple to self-identify.
Exactly. Could not agree more. Okay, so here's some more commentary. Number of CIMM to clients from 17 to more than 30, and I guess they are going after really big clients. I'm a little confused. I don't think they can handle the enterprise workload, because the way buying groups work is very different from the way, let's say, if you are selling it to Home Depot, that's going to be a very different business model. So it's a different business model. I'm really not sure if their target market is really these buying groups or it is going to be the enterprise company. But very interesting. So here they have some of the clients are Mayer Electric Supply, and these are slightly more mid-market companies, right, Robert?
Yep.
I don't think they are as big. Obviously, Thermo Fisher is like humongous. There's no question about that. They are really big.
Yeah, I mean, some of these, like Fisher Scientific, huge.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So they are able to do enterprise level workload. And again, if you are selling at that capacity, yeah, this is not as expensive in my mind. Yeah. Here, supplyforce.com, another very, and again, when you look at supplyforce.com, it's not even e-commerce play. It's more of the platform play, to be honest. Okay, Supplyforce is more like Ariba and Coupa. So now you are providing technology for Ariba and Coupa, not necessarily e-commerce. It's a different market altogether. But again, you require very different design. So the way they really started in this whole network concept, which is a very different data model, business operations model than your traditional commerce companies, in my mind. So this is where they have designed their business to business.com portal, where major companies like aerospace manufacturer, the Boeing Co. And this is a very Ariba centric and the punch out centric business model. And they provided sort of technology for them. They are saying supplyforce.com was ahead of its time, and offline channels accounted for most of its sales for several years. But over the past 4 years, okay, some commentary there. I don't see anything meaningful. So this is their e-commerce sales. It's not a lot. So they got from what roughly up to 450 million is not as much. And by the way, I mean Supplyforce is the sister company of affiliated distributor as well. So obviously they are going after all of the companies that are going to be in their port, and they all are going to have very different business models in general. But the way, again, the whole idea of buying group is to create that network effect, and that's what they are trying to do. And Supplyforce is a very different business model in general. Okay, so some more commentary here. So one of the things that they have done very uniquely is also in their SEO offering, and I don't think we have seen this in other platforms. Other platforms have done some customization overall from the indexing perspective, but here I guess they are offering a lot more. So and again, when you are going to have these many SKUs, you will require a lot more automation, and that's why these guys probably had to do this, where you are literally replacing any sort of part number that is going to have any special character. Obviously Google is not going to like that, so they are trying to make it more meaningful from the SEO perspective, more programmatically as opposed to doing it manually. So I sort of like the way they have done. And again, this problem is going to be relevant for companies that are going to have a lot of
one of the things that I see here, and I've personally experienced this, is what data the manufacturer has and what data it doesn't, and how you're going to fill in the difference. Like one of the big ones that I find that's missing frequently is dimensions.
Exactly.
And there are a number of them, so it gets really confusing. So there's the actual part dimension.
Yeah.
There is the part dimension in its box.
Yeah.
Or its packaging, whatever that may
packaging
be.
Dimensions. Yeah.
And then there is the dimensions in the shipping.
Yep.
And it becomes incredibly difficult for a shipping manager to project, and this is part of the 40 hours, it becomes incredibly difficult for the shipping manager to determine the best shipping methodology for a part if you don't have standardized part measurements.
Right. So I think there are a lot of different layers. So typically, if you're looking at companies that are doing, let's say, fulfillment right from the e-commerce platform, those would be typically the fulfillment goes through your ERP if you're doing internal fulfillment, unless you are drop shipping. If you're drop shipping, that's a different story. So in this particular case, if you're looking at the core attribute, that has to go through your ERP, and ERP sometimes can augment the data that you might not have in your e-commerce platform. Sometimes that might need to come from your manufacturer. So depending upon the information flow, I guess, I guess there are a lot of layers in that conversation.
Yeah, there's so because usually you have to do DIM. And if you're going to do DIM, then you also have to have the weight, and you have to compare it to the different shippers. And unfortunately, not all manufacturers provide that information. And so that is something that anybody taking a look at a platform has to consider for their own data. Is, do you have the data for you to effectively manage this? And if you don't, how are you going to supplement it? Now, if Unilog is going to be supplementing that data for you, that is a big plus. I know that we at WBS Rocks and the Friday afternoon coffee hour that we have talked about that, supplementing data and the efforts around that.
Exactly. And by the way, Unilog is doing that, and that's a huge value add. Okay, so you are going to give them incomplete SKU, and they are going to complete. That's massive. And that's why they are winning these. Okay, so this is the database. Okay, so this is how your SKU is going to look. when you are probably going to get from your manufacturers, and this is how they are going to convert. Obviously, this is a very automated process, as you can see. The challenge that I personally have this is because it's not going to be personalized, and as Robert pointed out, that this is probably not going to be as SEO friendly in my mind. Again, they might do a little bit of customization, personalization, but that's going to be similar to AI based personalization, because obviously you have a little template there that they are following. So I really don't know how well you are going to score or rank on Google. So I like the concept overall in terms of the time that they are trying to save. It's great from the investment perspective, but from Google's perspective, I'm not really sure.
Well, so this, like, there are some people that are going to take a look at this page design and go, oh man, look at all that data. It's gorgeous. It's great.
Yeah, I know.
And I look at it and go, oh my God, the UX designers are going to just have a cow because this is the giant wall of words that nobody can read. And what the typical person's going to want is they're going to want much larger images. They're going to want 360, degree view of it. They're going to want to be able to spin it. They're going to want a video of it. They, maybe want some user generated content so they can actually, maybe some ratings so that they can understand, okay, I see this part. This is the part that I need. Is this the right part for me? What does everybody else think that they've offered it? And this design, the layout of all the content just makes it really difficult to consume it.
So I would be slightly careful there, to be honest. Okay, so if you look at the B2B industrial space, and this is where I think the buyer persona is going to be super critical as well. I completely agree with your UX perspective that probably your designer is not going to be happy with this. But if you look at most of the B2B platforms, they are probably going to appeal to, okay? So, and it's not that they don't understand design, okay? It's about buyers' expectations in terms of what they are looking. And most of the buyers in the industrial space are going to be people like contractors. They are going to be mechanics, okay? And they don't necessarily want fancy images, to be honest. Okay, you might be shocked with that because for them, what they are looking for is quick way of finding the information, these dimensions. So they are seeing this as a list, and that's why B2B sites probably look like this, to be honest. Okay, obviously there's a better way of doing this, but the reason some of these B2B sites appear this way is because these buyers, they are very, I would say, different buyers because they have different expectations. If this were for more of the shopping brand, where let's say if you are targeting, female in 20s, obviously they will hate it.
Right. So, and this is where it's really important to know your customer, right? So exactly. Know how your customer is going to use your site and have actually done the studies to understand what's the most effective way for that persona for your site.
Exactly. Exactly.
Are they going to hit the search bar first? Are they going to use the architecture? Are they going to go down through the menu trees? What data are they looking at first? I know that some of the buyers may look for a secondary product. If the primary product they're looking for is out of stock, they're going to go look for a secondary product. So how easy is your referral? Like, buyers that bought this may want this, or here's an alternative if it's out of stock. Do you supply that? So that's just something.
Yeah, great comment, Robert. So obviously, Robert, you are probably not going to be happy with UX here either. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going on here. But at the same time, let's say if I am working as the product manager, and if I see 4 fields where I need to look at 16 fields or 60 fields on a screen, sometimes that could be very uncomfortable as well.
This is just your typical power user screen, right? So in the back end of almost any major system, insurance systems, hospital systems, e-commerce systems, they all look like this.
Exactly, and it's a very ERP-centric design, to be honest, if you look at it. But, for power users, probably this is what you need. They really like it. I mean, I personally like it to be, I don't like the newer interfaces where I need to click 15 times to fill out my form. I would rather have one form where I can quickly scroll and look at, what is happening. So again, I think it's the user that matters a lot. So I like the way they have organized the information, especially for the market segment that they are covering, because obviously these users are also jumping in between your ERP and e-commerce. And if the experience is going to be too off, then they won't appreciate. Either they are not going to appreciate ERP or they are not going to appreciate e-commerce.
Yeah, this. I mean, if you look at this design, this literally looks like it came off a green screen, Unix,
Yep.
right? And it was just transferred to net and just boxes. And, the only difference is going to be is what goes where, so the power user can find what they need fast.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly. But you know what? I mean, if you look at the details, the amount of details that they are able to capture for the B2B verticals, you probably need all of this. Okay. And I don't know if we have seen, they have things such as sales unit of measure. And again, that's a very ERP term, but you probably need that inside the e-commerce as well, depending upon how your workflows are set up. Then you have the competitor part number, which is very unique as well. They are able to do the linked items. Obviously, we have done some of the linked items, which is the cross-sell, upsell that is available in a lot of different platforms. But the way they are doing it more from the tree perspective on the left side, that could be extremely handy in navigating the tree for the product. And again, sorry, I am the slides. I kind of like the product structure, the way it is structured. Again, based on the kind of SKUs these guys are going to have, because they are going to have millions and millions of attributes for each of the product, and organizing that information in one screen is very hard in general. So I like the way it is built, and they have some very unique elements for the B2B industrial distributors that they are probably not going to find in any other platforms. Now, the other thing I really appreciate in this platform is going to be, and again, the whole UI and the design and the logo is probably from 80s. Okay, it's really bad. When you are buying an e-commerce platform, you would expect that they have figured out their own marketing before teaching you how to do the marketing. So obviously, these guys don't understand how the UX and the design works. But if you look at the core capabilities, okay, so what they are trying to do is, for any of the promotions, the banners are going to be super as well. And that's where I like this platform a lot. Okay, so when you are going to have the unique banner for a promo, and again, I don't think we have seen that functionality with any other platforms where you are actually aligning your marketing material with your promos. So here, your products are going to be aligned, your promotions are going to be aligned, your discounts and pages, and then you have the banners. Well, I like that a lot, especially for B2B.
Yeah, we haven't seen this in another B2B outfit. In B2C, you see that more often. Xcart used to have something similar to that.
Interesting. Okay, that I don't think we have reviewed Xcart, so I think that's on our list, I believe. Do you recall any other platform, Robert, Shopify, BigCommerce, by any chance? Have you seen?
Not that I recall.
Okay, so very interesting. So again, when you are going to look at their UX and UI, I know, Robert, you are not liking it, but and I'm pretty sure this is not going to be as seamless. I can almost guarantee that the way the UI is built, there are going to be a lot of bugs and defects, because obviously the technology is not as you might be able to notice on the interface itself. And we have some reviews that can confirm this as well. But it does have similar customizability.
It's not modern. It's all relative.
Super modern.
It's relative to the maturity of the place that it came from a digital standpoint.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, I do like a few things about this platform. So this is a similar architecture from the UI perspective. The big API server was. So it's really API server design philosophy inspired. I don't know how to put that in words. But it's a very similar structure, and that could be very handy when you're working on a lot of pages, a lot of complex hierarchy. So I like it a lot for the B2B market segment. Search-driven promotions, and again, that's very unique term that they have used, and I don't think we have seen that in any other platforms, which is very, very, very unique. Anonymous shopping, and I don't know how you are going to perceive this one, Robert. I would guess this is very similar to what we have seen in the case of, let's say, Sitecore had the anonymous personalization, if I remember correctly, which is the one that we reviewed recently that was doing unified commerce, the one that was with private equity.
So, I mean, there's a difference here between the B2C experience and the B2B experience. And so anonymous shopping in this case is choose whether you allow anonymous credit card shopping on your site. Well, by nature of using credit card, it can't be anonymous, right?
Okay, so
Unless
no. Okay, there is a difference from the e-commerce perspective, and I want to make sure that we are covering that. So the way these guys are trying to position this as when you are going to have a guest user, so you are right. Okay, from the nomenclature perspective, when you are getting a name or whatever from the credit card perspective, you can technically use that data, but you are probably not supposed to use because there is a compliance issue. Okay, so just because you have a guest and that is coming to your site and swiping a credit card as a guest, they are considered to be anonymous unless they provide the information, they create an account, then it is considered to be a logged in user. Then you can do whatever you want with their info, but you are not supposed to be using their credit card information.
Right. And typically most like authorized.net and most of the other merchant services groups do not want it going through your own server. And that's why they actually create the tunnel directly to them to protect it. And so in that case, it can be still, you kind of lose that anonymous piece, right? So if you're going to use a credit card, fine. The credit card does not go to the site, but if you're buying it, you still need to give them information so they can ship it to you.
Right, but that is still considered anonymous. Sorry.
So there's anonymous shopping. So we're talking about, so not using credit card, but I can actually go through your site anonymously and you won't know who I am. So there will be very little personalization unless you have a really sophisticated data capturing model.
Right. I guess the anonymity, in my experience from the e-commerce perspective, that is more in terms of whether I am retaining your data for your next transaction. That's how anonymousness is referred typically in e-commerce transactions. So yes, you are giving all the shipping information. I get it, but I'm not going to store in my database just because you did not tell me that you want to create your account on my site.
Right.
Yeah. So in this particular case, I don't know whether this is more of the context of B2B versus B2C. So in this particular case, they are saying anonymous shopping, but this is a B2B platform. So most likely they are allowing some of the guest users to be able to shop as well, even though they might belong to an account. And it gets really heavy overall in those workflows. It's very, very complex. And
because most of the B2B instances we've seen that are more sophisticated, where they have special pricing for select business customers.
Yeah,
you certainly can't offer that in an anonymous mode because you have to be able to identify yourself to get it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why obviously that's sort of a hook for these companies to encourage you to log in, because they want you to log in so that they can identify who's buying, and obviously the price is going to be more. So you're absolutely right. Okay, so flexible payment options, and obviously when we look at their integrations, they are not as robust as some of the other platforms that we have in the market, but they do have offer payment by a purchase order, which is a very interesting way of paying, and I don't know how that is going to work from the workflow perspective, and not even sure if that is very unique to how buying groups might work. I have seen purchase order initiating the transaction, but I have never seen purchase order paying for the transaction. So that's very unique for me.
And the two that are the one that is surprisingly missing from here is Stripe.
Exactly. But I don't know how many B2B customers are going to be doing Stripe unless you have some details.
Well, it's not B2C credit so much as it's just it is a very well-known entity, and a lot of people are starting to become very unhappy with PayPal and Venmo.
Right. If you are a B2C business where you have a lot of consumers, then you are probably going to be using Stripe to process the credit cards. In the case of B2B, typically your payments are going to be done by checks, EFT.
ACH, yep.
Exactly. Because, these transactions are very huge, overall in terms of size. $50,000, 3% on credit card fee. Good luck with that. I don't know who's covering for that. So these are some of the integration. And again, they have integration with one of the top, industrial B2B systems. So they have Acumatica, they have, Champex, DDI System Inform ERP, Distribution One, eBoss, Epicor Eagle, Epicor Eclipse, Epicor Preclude, Profit 21, one of the best, ERP system out there in the industry. SXC, Import Product, one of the best. JD Edwards, Enterprise One, obviously big focus on B2B industrial space. And then they have with the Microsoft AX and NAV as well, which is sort of decent in the industrial space. They are not as penetrated, but they have that integration as well. Then marketing integration, they have a lot. Then they have Channel Advisor, obviously very common. Then they are in the Salesforce ecosystem because they have MuleSoft connectivity, Rockwell Configurator. So a lot penetration overall from the integration perspective. But when you look at their shipping, okay, the only thing they have is FedEx, UPS, USPS. So most likely you are probably going to require a shipping add-on there. But payment shipping, they are not as penetrated, I would say, in that. But the other integration, they have a lot.
I think that the entire shipping piece, they're going to be relying on like the ERP, but that's not really an e-commerce piece of that. Like, no DHL, no like ShipStation.
Exactly, and I guess that's a great point, because if the shipping is all going to be done in the B2B space, in your fulfillment channel, which is either going to be WMS or it is going to be TMS or it's going to be ERP. Typically, those systems are the ones who are going to be handling the fulfillment in most industrial product categories. Or if you have a brick and mortar store, then you are sort of connecting, but then those brick and mortar would not go through this platform, I guess, because they don't probably have the POS presence for this one. Okay, so some more, commentary related to their unique content writing. So we take basic manufacturer data, transform it into rich marketing-driven content that attracts customer and generated sales, or enhanced product content increases search rankings. No, it does not, and provides customer a best of product information. So again, this is great, but again, this is coming from a database. So you need to keep that in mind. We source, edit, enhance product images to create a consistent images. I can agree that they obviously have, a little friendliness overall from the labor rate perspective. So they might be able to do a lot on the images. That's easy. But creating content, and again, they are trying to focus on a specific vertical. So they have a little subject matter expertise on the product as well. But the content has to come from the customer. They have to create their own content.
Yeah, it's like that's a bit of an overreach or a bit of an oversell.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. It used to be called Jarvis, and I forget what the new name of it is. The AI bot that rewrites your content based on the content that you put into us, and connected to SEMrush to find the keywords for that particular content and identify. It's like, no, you're not doing that.
Exactly.
In the voice of Ted Nugent.
Yeah, exactly. But Robert, I'm actually gonna reference one case study where I have seen personally. Okay, they had generated AI content and they did decently overall. So I don't know how Google is going to be as of today. But I have seen cases where they generated, and again, your choice is going to be either you don't generate any content or you generate some content from machine. Okay, so what are you going to choose? Now, with the new update of Google, it's slightly trickier. And the reason why it is trickier is because if they are going to have a lot of pages that are going to be machine generated, they are going to lower down your ranking.
Right. I mean, so you can automate the creation of content with AI. However, I have yet to see the automation of creation of content that has been SEO optimized, because it's the title, it's the keywords, and that changes on a day-to-day basis. And so going through and looking at the rankings for the keywords and the off keywords and the negative keywords and all that other fun stuff and plugging that in there, I haven't seen a tool that does that yet.
It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. Okay. So some more commentary here. So here they are saying 100% of our customer sites in the Google Cloud platform, that's what they are using. The environment allows for rapid development and code fixes. So they are saying that if I'm deployed on GCP, I'm good. Obviously require the architecture and design as well, but hopefully they can figure that out, because obviously they have background in these kind of systems. So here, one more commentary. If you're a member of affiliated distributors or an or guild dealer, you have access to a robust catalog of enriched product data courtesy of Unilog. So obviously, again, the reason why they are going after these buying groups is because they understand their SKUs, they understand their product catalog, so it's just easier. I don't think that is going to be applicable for other distributor or the industry segments. That's why this platform is really good for the buying groups and buying group members. I'm not too sure about the other industrial distributors.
Yeah, so this actually goes to the conversation that you and I had a couple of weeks ago about coming up with a way to show, display, graph where this really works well. And this tool works really well for like those buying groups.
Yep.
And we haven't covered tools for them before.
Sorry, what was the last statement? So we have
have not covered tools for buying groups before.
I agree. I personally haven't seen, so that's why I like it a lot because it's a very unique market, very interesting needs, and they are able to do.
And that's how you find success. You niche down until the competition is non-existent, and you
but
solve
just
a problem, and they are.
just to be careful, just because buying group is buying it and it's fit for them, it may not be a fit for you. So you
Yeah,
need to pay a little attention there, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so they have described their capabilities: enterprise data management, flexible data module, all marketing, allows customers to place orders directly through their own procurement system. This is a very standard B2B functionality that we have seen in most systems. So they have that punch out integration as well, which is wonderful. Data quality management is great, to be honest. I have not seen, and they have a little automation there for that. So they are using the same database to validate the database that they are using to create the product content. So obviously they have done some work there. Now I like this a lot as well. I think their analytics is slightly richer based on what we have seen in the other platform. This could be comparable to some of the enterprise platform. If I remember correctly, I think we saw this in case of SAP Commerce and some of the other ones as well. So I like the way the analytics is done. It's slightly more organized for B2B buyers. Okay, so these are some of the case studies. So here they are saying maintain Prop 65 product. And by the way, this is a very unique compliance. So I want to make sure that I'm touching on that. And again, compliance gets extremely tricky. So if you haven't figured out, what compliance needs you are going to have in your product, it could cost millions and millions of dollars to build these capabilities in a vanilla platform. So when you are reviewing any of the product, make sure you are paying serious attention to compliance and how the platform is going to handle that. So here we are talking about the specific warning at the product level, and when you are going to have millions and millions of SKUs, it becomes very hard. And here I remember we had very unique requirements for this compliance. So up to date product content that meets current regulations. So obviously, if you can't sell any of the expired products, I guess you have to show the warnings, and the warning is going to be this is specific to a chemical industry. Chemicals. So obviously they must be doing really well in the chemical industry as well. Chemical distributors. Go ahead, Robert.
No, so Prop 65 has gone through the entire e-commerce world. I mean, Amazon is notorious for having products blocked from being sold, and you look at it and go, how is this applied to Prop 65? Like a Bose speaker. And you're scratching your head, but they realize that if they are not proactive, they're going to get nailed.
Exactly. Yeah, it's better safe than sorry, I guess. So let's see if I can cover one more slide, maybe a review, and then we can open up for the commentary. So here the review is saying 2021 mid-market, 51,000 employees. The support has been sort of mixed reviews overall. Some people are happy about it because obviously it's not as expensive, but some people are complaining that it takes a hell lot of time to get any sort of responses, and some people have complained that sometimes the result outcome could be catastrophic if they don't respond, because obviously you are getting penalized by Google if they don't fix something. So those issues are there with e-commerce platforms as well. Yeah, so overall they didn't like the block feature. The content they are not appreciating. I guess a lot of customers have reported that. What else do I have here? Yeah, I think
I like the comment on the right. Recommendations to others considering Unilog. Make sure you get comprehensive demos during go live and write your own documentation for internal users. This will ensure a smoother transition and the ability to have a comprehensive feature list of the product.
Could not agree more. And by the way, here you are talking about internal documentation, and when you are doing external documentation, are you going to rely on Unilog for that?
Unfortunately, some do.
All right, Robert. Any more commentary?
Nope. This was an interesting one, Sam. Kudos.
Of course. So, I'll offer some commentary. We have 2 minutes right now. So overall, I guess my take on this is, I don't think you are going to find as a strong product if your expertise is not going to be content. Most B2B commerce companies, they really struggle with content. That's their biggest problem. The content, data. That's where the biggest pain point is, and that's why they cannot go to e-commerce. So for them, this is a huge value. That they even if they are charging $200,000, in my mind, you can never do this. So are you going to miss the bus for e-commerce? So that's why I do feel that they have a significant value add here, and they have a very unique market offering for e-commerce. And if you are part of the buying group, this is probably huge for you. In Robert, any follow-up comments there?
I think this has a very specific use case for the B2B company that has a significant number of parts that wants to try to get into e-commerce, and they just have incomplete data, which is very, very common.
Yep.
And they look at it as being just unwieldy to try to overcome that hump. So this could be a way in. There are other companies that do data as well. If you're going to look at this purely from an e-commerce play, I wouldn't consider them, because I think their technology and their usability is below par. So I think what you're looking at here is a very specific situation. They do have a B2C. It's called Bravo Business Media, and we haven't reviewed that one yet.
Sorry. Okay, so they bought another company. That's what you are referring to, and that's their B2C. My understanding of that solution was they were more of the store sales, the counter sales. That's what Bravo Media, they were targeting more of these tile store, furniture store.
Well, that's B2C, right? So they do have a B2C arm. They may be using still the core data that they have, making the B2C simpler, but that's for a different conversation.
Yeah, interesting insights. Anything else, Robert, before we close?
Nope.
Awesome, guys. So that's it for today. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our e-commerce series, for which we meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another topic or the vendor. On that note, thanks everyone for tuning in.
Good night, all.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Robert Brown, head over to rgbecommerce.com. It's rgbecommerce.com. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Noemi Kiss, who shares her insights into how the water industry works and how its sales cycle differs from other industries. Also, the interview with Megan Gamble, who shares her insights into building the systems for packaging industry. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.